Today we got John Mendez on the podcast. John, what's going on, my man?
Rob, excited to be here. Excited to be. I know we were talking offline that a couple people canceled and had to reschedule. So I'm the official first interview. I don't know when this is going to air, but can't anyone say that they hopped on Rob's podcast before I did? So I'm excited to be here today.
Yeah, man, and I appreciate you showing up too. Like you said, had a couple people reschedule and cancel. So that makes you the top dog, dude. So what do you got going on?
Man, it's been a very exciting journey. This year, I finally really started to catch my stride last year, and I've been very fortunate and blessed to meet you last year. And at the state when we originally met, I had so much going on, but this year things are starting to get pieced together. I'm starting to actually progress and not just move. And I was spinning wheels, right? I was just spinning wheels, man, going around in circles, and I was moving. So I thought I was pushing the needle forward. But in all actuality, I was just keeping myself busy. But this year, as I said, things are starting to get done, and I'm just super excited to see what the rest of the year has in store.
Yeah, dude, I love hearing that you're finally catching on to some of that traction. As everybody knows, you are Mr. Podcast, but not everybody listening might be able to know that. So, would you like to share a little bit about the podcast, how you kind of got started with it, and where you got rolling with the whole thing?
Yeah, so I'll give you a little bit of context. So to hop back in the time machine a little bit. So I grew up in the projects, right? It was nine of us in a two-bedroom. My mother, she suffered from mental health issues. My father, he was very absent in my life. Free lunch, food stamps, Section 8, the whole nine yards. Money was very, very absent growing up. So for me, financial literacy is something that I never even knew about. Like a lot of people say it's a foreign language. I didn't even know that language existed. I wasn't even aware that that was a language. And for me, I was in the middle of the pandemic. Now, fast forward a little bit, and I'm in college. It's my sophomore year at UConn, and I read a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad. And then from there, this is fall 2020. I just hopped into the rabbit hole, and it shifted my paradigm and made me realize that there's another way of viewing the world that wasn't being taught at school, wasn't being taught in my environment, but more importantly, it wasn't being taught at home. So from there, I just jumped into the rabbit hole of personal finance and financial literacy and entrepreneurship. And that's winter break. I learned more about things that actually matter in life than my whole years of schooling combined. So when I came back my spring semester 2021, we're still at home. It's still the pandemic. I was just like, man, with the whole world being uncertain, the only thing I was certain of was myself. So I decided to drop out of college, sign up for a real estate class, and that's how I got into entrepreneurship. Fast forward a little bit more, now we're in that summer of 2021. One of the guys was like, hey, John, man, we're talking about life, we're talking about goals. I really think like other people would find these conversations valuable. And I'm like, yo, bro, that's a good idea. So from there, we were supposed to start it together. He ended up going back to college. I ended up getting licensed as a realtor. So our schedules didn't match up. And about after 4 months of procrastinating, I finally came up with the name Walk to Wealth, and the whole meaning behind the name, as you already heard in speaker school, is for the 99% of us that are overnight sensations. It's a long walk to wealth, and some may walk quicker than others, but what good is sprinting to the finish line if you pass out when you cross it? And that's how Walk to Wealth was born.
Yeah, man, I love that. I love the whole origin of the story and the title and everything. You said that things kind of got started rolling for you initially when you read Rich Dad Poor Dad, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
So, how did you come across that book?
That's the only part of my story where I blank, man. I don't know what was going on during the pandemic, and you probably know this, man. Like every day felt like the same day. It's just like we're in this never-ending cycle of like just wake up and go to sleep, wake up, go to sleep. And so that part of my life, I really just it's just like kind of a blur because I was also working a ton during that time period. So it's like wake up, go to the restaurant, go to bed, like after I shower and stuff like that. Rinse, wash, repeat, eat in the middle, we don't when I can. But from the best of my memory, what I can recollect is that around September of 2021, I invested for the first time in Tesla. That was my first investment ever. It was during the 5-1 stock split. So Tesla, the price of Tesla just dropped like almost one fifth of the price, essentially. And I was like, oh shoot. But before that, my friend was telling me, like, hey John, you should invest. And my only experience investing prior to that was back in 2019. I signed up for a free Robinhood account, got the free stock. It started going down. And so I sold it, deleted the app, and never opened up anything personal finance related ever again. So that was my only experience prior to that. So when he told me to invest in Tesla, I was like, are you investing in it? And what he told me was that he couldn't because current, like his family situation at the time. He lived with his sister and his sister's younger daughter. His family is back in Haiti, so it's only them two. So and he's like my age, so he was in college at the time. So he's not making money, and he has to pretty much be the man of the house. And so it's like he wasn't able to because financially. But for me, it was very honorable that he shared that with me because a lot of people, when they can't invest in the opportunity themselves, it's like if I can't have it, no one can. But despite him not being able to, he shared that opportunity with me, and then from there I invested, and I think that's what kind of planted the seed in me. As I said, my friend that told me about Robinhood, I think he was like John the Baptist. He came too soon. Like he was paving the way long before I even knew there's a way, there, right? And for me, those are the main 2 points I can stem back to that might have caused me to go to Barnes and Noble. But I mean, as I said, like every day was like the same thing over and over. So it's hard to pinpoint what actually led to me going to Barnes and Noble.
Well, somewhere along the way, it sounds like you made some right choices and finally got the book in the right hands. And I love what you said about the about others, where if they can't get something, they don't want others to do that, get the same thing. And I look at that as like the crab mentality. Like you've probably
Hmm.
heard the stories about the bucket of crabs and how
Yeah,
they'll pull each other down to prevent anybody from escaping. And
yeah.
that's so true. You got to eliminate those crabs in your life.
It's one of those things, man. It's like it's hard because in order to for that quote to be true, right? For that story to be true, you have to come to terms with the fact that the people around you are the one that's holding you back. Right? It's not someone outside of the cage or outside of the box that is pulling you down. It's the people within. And it's hard to come to terms with because you'll realize the people around you, for whether they're doing it consciously or not, are secretly also the reasons why you can't step into the person that you're meant to become. And so sometimes you have to get away from the box. Whatever you do to get out of the box, you have to get out and escape. Because that until then, you're pretty much going to be slowing yourself down, or maybe entirely prohibiting yourself from growing.
Yeah. And it's not always the people who are closest to you, they're not always doing that in a malicious manner, too. People sometimes are doing it just to protect you because they think that they know better. So, like, preventing you from putting yourself out there and getting hurt, in their eyes, is a way of them doing right by you, even though it is, like you said, preventing you from becoming the person you want to be. So, in your own life, like, how do you recognize the right people to keep around you?
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's hard to come by, and I mentioned this in the our 100th podcast episode event that you were at in person about the death of the father, right? The atonement of the father, and
Oh
how
yeah.
you can't succeed until your father dies, metaphorically. And it's a concept that's very hard to stomach because it sounds very gruesome at first, like my father has to die, but it's like that's just metaphorically speaking for pretty much whoever you hold in highest regards in your life until you let go of their ideals for you and their vision for you, you're not going to be able to become the person you need to become. So your father's dreams for you has to die in order for yours to live sometime. And for me, I was always a person that was very isolated growing up. So I stopped caring very early on in terms of what other people thought of me. So it was on the easier side of things for me to not care what people think and to go out and chase my dreams and to go out and make a name for myself. I also had a pandemic where it's like the entire world was just sitting on their butt for 2 years. So it's like I was had a almost an easy gateway into entrepreneurship because the world was on pause. And worst case scenario, when the world resumed, I'd just pick up where I left off because everyone was doing nothing anyways for the most part. And so for anyone that needs help figuring out who they want to keep in their life, my first thing is like one thing I did on Instagram is if you don't inspire me in some way, shape, or form, you're getting muted. I muted everybody. Everybody on my Instagram gets muted. I don't care if I know you. I don't care if I'm friends with you. If you don't inspire me, you're getting muted. I do not want to see anything that you have to post. Right. And I'm very strict about what I put into my mental diet. I do not let anyone that I don't want to see show up on my Instagram feed. I I'm always hitting hide, mute, unfollow, report. Like I don't want to see any of that stuff, man. I'm muting people's story, muting people post. On top of that, too, it's like your time is everything. So it's like who you give your time to is of the utmost importance. And so whatever I try to do, it's like, are these people the same people that I knew once when? And if they are, they may not be the people for you. Because as you start getting on this journey, as you probably already know, It's like you're constantly changing. The person you are now isn't the same person from last week, and the same person from a year ago, and the same person from 5 years ago, right? We're constantly changing, constantly evolving. And so it's like, if you start progressing on this personal development journey, on this entrepreneurship journey, you're going to evolve, and other people's are going to evolve, but the rate at which they're evolving may not be able to keep up with yours. So when that happens, it doesn't take too long before it compounds, and now you guys are in two entirely different realms, not in terms of like status or money, but just in terms of mindset and mentality, in terms of what you want for yourselves in life. And you know the rule about the compounding penny, like 1% better every day, right? So 1% better every day is 37% better every year. You continue that for 5 years straight, that's 77 million% better. So it's like it doesn't take much time before the people that you're on, it's like you're on Mount Everest, and they're still like not even at the beginning of the summit, right? They're not even starting their climb yet. It's like you will get very lonely. You will get very, wonder if it's all worth it. Like I was seeing a video the other day of one of my boys that I went to college with. We came in together. They just graduated, and I was kind of stuck thinking for a little bit, man. Like, is the decision I made the right one? And we'll never know. Like, even no matter how successful we become, we're always second guessing, thinking like it's human of us. But know that the vision, the mission that you're on when you embark on this is something that not everyone's cut out for. And so if you're entering the side hustle journey, if you're entering this entrepreneurship journey, you're in for great things if you can stick with it. So it's something that, to those who, much is given, much is required. So I think I'm made the right decision at the end of the day.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And a lot of times, at least from what I've seen, is so many people get caught up in indecision, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's not necessarily on figuring out what the right decision is as much as it is to just make a decision and run with it.
Yeah.
Like your buddy went to college and you're now pursuing other things. But if you got caught up in between both of those things, you wouldn't be anywhere. You would just be stuck. And that's where I appreciate you sharing that and jumping out with that part there. And I really liked what you'd said about how you mute everybody who doesn't inspire you or educate you or in some way on social media, because I unintentionally did the same thing. I started muting certain pages, certain things, and I keep some of the funny meme ones, so when people do send them to me, I can kind of still see them, but I take them off of my feed. So when I am like scrolling and looking through things, at least it tricks me into thinking that I'm bettering myself and improving still on my own. And that brings me to this question that I want to ask you is, how do you know if you're limiting yourself too much? Because I know for a time period for myself, I eliminated television, I eliminated music. So the only thing I'm ever listening to in the car was like podcasts or books. I started cutting down my circle, which might have been a little too fast, too much too fast. How do you know what you're doing is still moving in the right direction? Like, is it possible to be personal developing yourself too much where then you're not actually living?
Nah, man, that's a great question. It's something that I struggle with myself finding the answer to. And I think there's seasons in life, and it might just be the season. And to kind of piggyback on what I said before this question is, to much is given, much is required. Where do you envision yourself going? If you have some dream of like, I just want to make 100,000 a year, that's not the world's biggest dream. Just like you won't have to, give up that many things to get to that point. It's been done. Let's say you want to build $100 billion business. Man, you're gonna have to do a whole lot of stuff that you may have not known when you originally signed up for that journey. So it's like, how big is your vision? I think would be the first question, because that is gonna be the mark. Because I don't feel like I think it's a spectrum, like many things in life. It's not too much or not enough. It's like how much of it are you doing? And for me, I had a very similar situation where it's like a lot of the circles that I was in, I fizzled out of, not because they were bad people. I just, as I said, I started to progress in a certain way, and my vision for what I wanted for myself at that point in time started to change. And the people who weren't aligned with that vision or weren't heading in a similar direction started to fizzle out. And the rate at which they fizzle out is dependent on how quickly you evolve and how fast how much you put into yourself. So for me, it happened because I was working close to 70 hours Casino Rail and K Jewelers, and I was also studying for my real estate exam. So every day for me for like a solid 4 months was literally I would wake up, get ready, go to K, clock out, go home, go to sign, clock out, shower, go to bed for like months. And on top of that, I still had to study for my real estate exam. So it's like that was my schedule. I just didn't have time to, chit chat and be in the group chats and, kiki haha with everybody. Would that have happened a lot slower had I not went all in and balls to the wall? Maybe. But I feel like it would have happened eventually. So it's like if it's going to happen eventually, inevitably, then how soon it happens, I'm not sure that's a question that I would say really matters much, at least for me personally. Because if it was going to happen anyways, and it happened a little quicker than planned, I mean, it was still going to happen anyways. And enjoy the memories for what they were. And I try not to look back at life and anything because I, I think the best question to ask yourself is, do you believe that the person you are today is a good person? That you're on the right track? I think that's a very grounding question because, as I said, it's so hard to navigate. We don't have a playbook for life. Like we have a playbook to run Facebook ads or to create a podcast, to launch your podcast, to run a business, but there's no tactic, step by step, framework for like how to actually play this life game out. And everyone's going to have different things that they want to say, but it's all depending on their life situation, which may be entirely different from yours. So it's like your life, no one can say how you should or should not really live it, right, in terms of your life. So it's like, do you believe that you're a good person? If you do, why would you change anything? Because you could say I could have done this and I would have been a better person, but then it's like the butterfly effect. If you change one thing in the timeline, then everything after that may have drastic effects, and now next thing you know, the whole time lapse is messed up. And I don't know all that much about time travel. I just watched a couple movies, but you know how it goes. It's like you touch one thing in the past, and then your whole future or present day is like a whole nother reality. So it's like I believe I'm a great person now. So everything that has happened and transpired from now and in the past, it's like it led me to here. I think I'm at a good spot here. So what has happened to let me lead me to get here. Whether I had to cut off friends or whether I had to remove myself from such certain environments and situations. Whether I had to move, whether I had to quit my job, whatever it led to me being here. But I think this is a great spot, right? And I'm a good person. I think it's well worth it.
And I would totally second that, dude. I think you're a great guy. So you're
Thank you, man. Thank
definitely
you.
moving in the right direction. You did say that there really is no playbook or something that you can kind of base your own life off of, and I would kind of disagree. I think that you could use role models and mentors kind of as like a person or somewhere that you can almost model yourself, or at least who you want to be and where you kind of want to go. With that being said, who are some mentors or role models or people that you look up to that you kind
Yeah.
of get ideas and things on how you kind of want to craft your own life?
Yeah, no, 100%. And I agree with you. I just mean like for your specific life, like no one's lived your life, right? So
Right.
there's other people, right, that I look up to, and I strongly believe in role models and mentors. But it's like for your own life, no one lived life the way that you've lived it. So it's like for someone to say how you should live it, it's like well they didn't go through the variables that led you to get there. But I genuinely believe that modeling your success after other people is what you should do. And I don't say should often because should implies judgment, but it's like the smart men learn from the mistakes, and the wise men learn from the mistakes of others. So why not learn from other people? And some of the people that I look up to, Alex Hormozy is one of them. Jordan Peterson is someone I hold in high regards. I like very polarizing figures. I think it's very honorable to stand up and face the world and stand for your beliefs in a world where I believe a lot of people are sheep, in a world where I believe a lot of people just fall for whatever is the norm, which just fall for just follow suit. People who can stand for what they believe in is honorable. And I'll get a little philosophical, but in a world where no laws, no regulations, no anything, it's like who's really right and who's wrong. And at the very end of the day, if you ask someone why enough times, it'll become very apparent that most of us don't know anything really. Just like we're all just in search of the truth, I feel. And for me, people, as I said, like Jordan Peterson's another one of them. People like that, like Kyrie. I wouldn't say Kyrie really, because he doesn't not really an entrepreneur, but people like I said that can stand on their beliefs, that say who they are and live that out. I think honor is one of the most important things to me personally.
Mhm.
Um, Russell Brunson's another guy that I really like to listen to. Those probably the top guys that I listen to the most. Mainly Alex Hormozy recently, Russell Brunson a lot, and like Jordan Peterson, another guy I love. And then I like listening to random philosophical stuff every now and then, depending on what I'm listening to. But I think Eastern philosophy is like, I don't know what it is over there, but they have like a simple way for describing the most complex topics. Like they'll just say like one word, and they'll have like a whole like dictionary length definition behind that one word, but it all makes sense for whatever reason. So it's like Eastern philosophy is also something that's helped me out a lot.
Nice. I'm definitely gonna have to check into more of that. I like some of those people that you had said as well. One thing you had said a little while ago was one question that you had said was, "How big is your vision?" So let me ask you, like, how big is your vision? Where are you looking to go with the podcast? What are you looking to kind of accomplish?
Man, I'm looking to hit top 10. I want to be the best podcaster out there for people like myself who grew up in untraditional upbringings and want to live that entrepreneur life, but want to see someone that is relatable. I think what differentiates me from a lot of other people is I didn't wait for the boat to be at sea. It's for me to say, hey, come, the waters are nice. It's like, no, I'm still loading up at the dock. I'm still getting the cargo on board. I'm still, touching up the sail, getting the ship ready. I still haven't set sail yet, and I'm telling people to, hey, come on. So I think that's what differentiates me, and I just want to start a movement. Like wealth to me, I learned very early on that there's a spectrum to wealth and abundance, and wealth to me is more about the abundance in all your areas of life. And as I said, I grew up not having much, and in Stanford, as you know, is a very diverse city. So just on the other side of town, you have people with multi-million-dollar homes. So it's like you have people that I know have no money, and you have people with like old money. So it's like, and everyone in between. And I was able to see the vast spectrum of what you can do when you have abundance and when you don't. And for me, it's like, well, I'd rather just choose to have abundance if I have a choice, which I believe we all do. And it's one of those things where it's like I want to make this into like a massive movement where it's just like we're changing like millions. Like that's why I want to take in. That's why I want to get into public speaking as well. It's so I can get my message out to more people on a bigger scale, on a bigger stage. And I'm continuing to, go all in on the podcast. It's all to just get the message to as many people as possible and just spark a massive like cataclysmic movement over like this whole like walk to wealth. Like we're all just walking to it. We're all just on this journey of life and figuring it out one step at a time and not playing the game abundantly, not hiding our cards close to our chest, not trying to keep the secrets to ourselves and the wealth to ourselves. It's something where it's like when you're operating out of creation, there's always enough food for everyone to go around.
Oh yeah, dude, I love that. Awesome vision, and it's going to be a crazy journey. And you already are pretty high up there in the podcasting, right? Didn't you just get a new title for
Yeah,
yourself in your
so
podcast?
we hit top 3% globally, which is super
Nice.
exciting to hear. Out of like I think it was like
Congrats.
4 million. Thank you, brother. Out of like 3.5 million podcasts or something like that. It's on listen notes, and so I just go off of them. And for me, that was like a really big milestone because it's really a battle of attrition. So it's not mainly more so like the vanity metrics that I'm proud of. It's just knowing that I lasted that I'm proud of, and my podcast, and you'll realize, man, episode like 7 to 10, 12 ish, you'll be like, man, should I keep posting these episodes? Like, you'll get to that point, and then if you stick with it long enough, man, you'll start seeing some benefits. And I think podcasting is a cheat code to life. If you haven't started a podcast and you're in entrepreneurship, I genuinely believe you should, just because it's something where you don't have to become the next Joe Rogan or Pat Flynn or Alex Hormozy or whatever and have like this big massive podcast with thousands and millions of downloads. All you really have to do really is just use this to get access to the people that you want to get access to and have one-on-one coaching with them. Like you have a podcast, it's like, hey, can I have 15 minutes of your time? And I just want to pick your brain. It's like, no, sorry, I'm busy. Hey, I'm actually debuting this brand new podcast. I'm featuring local entrepreneurs, and you're someone that I've really admired and looked up to for quite some time now. Would you be interested in being one of the debut interviews for my podcast? It's like, oh my goodness, you want to interview me? Yeah, sign me up. Where do I need to sign up? And now that same person that wouldn't have given you the time of day, you're now able to ask about their entire life story for an hour, 30 minutes or 30 minutes to an hour and really deep dive into how they got to where they got to. And so it's like you do that for like 10 people, you should have enough. knowledge then in your industry to figure out whether or not you actually want to pursue it before actually starting your business. So if you haven't started your side hustle yet, let's say you want to do right? E-commerce. Find 10 people that are successful in e-commerce, start an e-com podcast, record those interviews, upload them to YouTube or on Anchor for free. And then if you want to continue it, by all means. But if you don't like e-com and you find out during one of your interviews it's not for me, then screw ecom. What's the next topic? And find something that you like. But before diving into it, you can have access to all these top people without having. And then when you really get the podcast going, like for my 99th episode, I had David Meltzer, which is like a big time entrepreneur guy. It's like now that I got him on the podcast, I got one guy with like 1.5 million followers. I told you coming on the podcast that I DM'd, like literal, like regular DM'd on IG. So it's like, yeah, you can start getting access to some bigger and more amazing guests, not because they're more successful, that they're more amazing, just that guests that have accomplished more in their life. And it's like I'm just still like the same guy that we kind of, well, I wouldn't say I'm same guy because we're constantly changing, but like I'm still like a regular guy. I'm still 21 years old, so it's like I'm getting access to people I normally have no business talking to.
Yeah, I love that. You almost get to test out whatever you want to try to pursue. You get to kind of live through others' lives and their experiences when you interview and you ask kind of what they're going on and such like that. Which leads me to wanting to ask you, back when you were going through multiple jobs, studying for real estate, all that stuff, like how did you pull yourself through? Like what were you sacrificing, and how did you get yourself through that?
So I mentioned earlier I have an interesting response. So this is something I got from a guy I interviewed on my show, and he's very big into the quantum laws and the universal laws and stuff like that. And everyone usually talks about attraction, manifestation, all that other jazz, all the trendy stuff. This one was so profound. It's something that when I heard it, it was like, yo, that is amazing. So essentially, what it is, it's called the law of non-sacrifice. And essentially, what it is that when you're choosing to do what you love to do, it is never a sacrifice. Sacrifice is a scarcity-minded topic. Sacrifice implies that you have to give something up in order to obtain something else. The abundance flip on that is that you are choosing what you love to do, so you're not actually giving up anything. So it doesn't mean that you can pretty much, let's say, for example, you want to get a job, but you have to pass the sobriety test. Just because you have the law of non sacrifice doesn't mean you can keep on drinking and you'll get the job. No, what it means is because you're choosing to what you love to do, whatever you quote unquote give up, it doesn't feel like a sacrifice. Sacrifice means like you're giving something up. It's like I'm not giving up anything. I'm just doing what it takes required to do what I love to do. And I love the concept because it's something where it's like everyone talks about how you're gonna lose your friend, you gotta do all this, but it's like if you're choosing what you love to do, then all that stuff is just part of what's required to get to where you want to go. And because where you're going is something that is aligned with you, it's different. When you're going somewhere and it's not aligned with you, that's when it feels like a sacrifice. Because now it's like you're not doing something that you enjoy to do. You're not doing something that you feel fulfills you, and you're giving that stuff up. But like for me, podcasting, like I didn't go to school. Did I sacrifice college to get into entrepreneurship? No, I just chose it. I don't view it as a sacrifice. I just see it as I chose a different route because I love this more than that. That's how I see it personally. So I don't believe I really have to sacrifice anything. I just feel like I followed my calling.
Oh yeah, dude, I love that too because so many people, especially nowadays, I feel like more people are kind of being aware of what kind of current situation that they're in. So whether they're in a job that they hate or a relationship that's not necessarily most beneficial to their own health and life, I feel like people are starting to kind of notice like, hey, maybe I can still make a living and do something with something that I actually enjoy doing. Do you feel like you see more and more people kind of moving into the world of doing their own thing, or do you still see a lot of people who are stuck in jobs that they just kind of hate, living the life that they are just too confused on how to better?
Yeah, and there's a big movement of people that are starting to finally wake up. I think the pandemic woke up a lot of people, and it made it evident that a lot of people were sleeping. And now a lot of people are starting to pursue what's better for them and their families. Are starting to try into entrepreneurship now that pretty much AI has become democratized and information access to it has become free and readily available to anyone with internet connection across the world. It's like we can learn at such faster rates than a lot of people are starting to say, hey, well, a lot of these other people are making money. Why not try? And it's one of those things where I feel like back in the day when there was no technology, the barrier to entry was so high, so there was minimal competition, and that made it. I feel personally, I think I want to say easier to succeed, but different things were required to succeed. And nowadays, because internet connection is so readily accessible to everyone, the barrier to entry is extremely low to start a side hustle or start a business. But there's more competition, right? In terms of I wouldn't say competition in terms of like, hey, it's you versus them, but just other people doing the same thing that you're doing as well. And so I think personally that a lot of people are starting to do it. A lot of people are starting to quietly quit. And I think during the pandemic, there's something going on in the background called like the great exile. Everyone was quitting their jobs. So I definitely agree with the fact that a lot of people are waking up to this stuff and what's going on. And
Mhm.
as long as you spend time coming from contribution, coming from value, like whatever your side hustle is, whether that's you're knitting and you do crochet on the side for people, whether it's, you're doing personal training, whether it's you want to do a virtual online business coaching, business, whatever it may be. As long as you're coming from value and the value is relevant and you spend the time to really, get good at pretty much articulating that value, I think you're solid no matter what industry you're in. And I personally would recommend reading $100 million offers. I think that book is amazing. And I'm not sponsored by them at all, but that book is like solid gold. Like everything in that book I would follow when first starting off. And I think that would definitely help out a lot of people, really just help distinguish himself from everyone else.
Yeah, you're talking about Alex Hormozy's book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bought it on audio and listened to it like 5 times, and said that I needed to get the physical copy. So then I went out and bought the same thing. So I also recommend that one. Um, so we got a lot of things going on this year. You're just breaking into the top 3% globally, right? So what else? What
Yeah.
else can we expect to see from you and the podcast this year? You said you had another guest coming on pretty soon who's got a lot of followers. Any more live events and such like that?
Yeah, so I have a networking event that I'm going to do in June. A big thing I'm excited for is like publicly launching my course. So my side hustle, I was in this thing. So we talked about earlier how if you were trying to do one thing, if I were to try to do college and entrepreneurship, it wouldn't have worked out. The man who chases two rabbits catches neither. And I forget who says it. And so I've been kind of in this stage of my life last year where I was trying to chase too many rabbits. I wasn't catching anything. So I had to let go of real estate. I'm still a licensed agent, but I don't really ever market myself as a licensed agent. I usually don't tell people that I'm licensed just because that's not what I'm trying to do anymore. I'm just leveraging that now because I have a marketing company. And in there, I'm helping real estate agents pretty much learn how to take their online presence to the next level. And I created a course for that. So I have 8 students in the course, and I plan on publicly launching it in June. So I'm getting super excited for that because the podcast, at least for me personally, was hard to monetize. I haven't monetized it yet. And so I'm going to be pretty much using my expertise that I have in marketing and helping the people in real estate that I know, and then that's going to allow me to start generating income so then I can leave the restaurant job that I'm at and then focus more on the core stuff so I can really scale that and get it to the point where it's like bringing in a solid amount of income consistently almost on autopilot, so then I could really focus on growing the podcast, which is where I really want to do. And the marketing business course thing, whatever, it's to fund my mission. So a
Mhm.
lot of times we do something, it may not be in direct alignment with what we want to do. Like the podcast is what I truly fulfills me. That's what I really want to be doing because I like speaking, I like connecting with people, I like sharing the message, I like sharing the wealth of knowledge. But it's like that's not bringing in the paycheck right now. So it's like I found a way to use my expertise, the knowledge that I did have in marketing, and I found a audience that was willing to receive it and needed it. And I forget, I think it was $100 million offers, or I forget where I heard this one, but it's like if you have a hot dog stand, and it doesn't matter if your hot dogs suck, if everyone in the baseball arena is starving, you will sell out of hot dogs. So it's like I found a crowd essentially that I wouldn't say was starving, but I found a hungry crowd. So I've been very fortunate, and I also have a pretty decent, product. I feel so. Find something where you can provide value, and the people need that value. That's why I said relevance earlier. The value is only valuable if it's relevant. If it's not relevant, then it's not really valuable, at least to that set audience that you're pitching it to. So I found something that was relevant and valuable, and then now it's like getting that going, and that's gonna help me fund my mission until the podcast gets its own wheels. And I plan on doing my 200th episode celebration in December because now I'm dropping 3 a week, so
Ooh.
that's gonna be super exciting. And I was just talking to one of the students in my course today, and we're going to help. She's gonna help me create a job description because I want to get a college intern. So how I have like a college intern paid an experience would be something that's super amazing for me because that's gonna allow me. I'm a very like visionary and creative minded person. I'm not the best at ops. It's not where my brain naturally goes to in systems and being organized. So for me, it's like I need something that can help me get this stuff together. And once you have someone on your team, it's like you and another person can just like a two-man team can do a lot of damage. So I'm super excited for that. Bringing in another person that's gonna allow me to maybe do more events and stuff like that, and maybe like go all in onto the podcast and open up another service where for the realtors in the course do like some type of like marketing agency services for them, but I'm only gonna make it available for the people in the course. So have some exclusivity around it. So that's what's in stores in the meantime. Oh, public speaking. I've been speaking a lot more, and I'm working on landing my first paid in-person gig soon in Vegas. So that's what's pretty much in stores. As I said, last year took a lot of them running around pretty much aimlessly. Once I decided to double down and focus around December, doors started to open up for me. So definitely that this year's been exciting. I got some more exciting things in store.
Yeah, I can't wait to see the next doubling down and seeing how fast you're going to explode out. So when are you launching the course again? And is it just specifically for realtors, or can anybody who's interested in marketing take it and benefit
Yeah,
from it?
so it is beneficial to anyone in marketing. So one of the things that I learned for course creation and for products or service or whatever, from when you're at 0 to 1 million, it's one product, one avatar, one transformation. So like when I'm doing all my marketing and pitching or whatever, I'm gearing it towards real estate agents, despite it being able to pretty much be applicable to anyone. Essentially, what I'm teaching them is how to leverage AI to create content at scale without having to hire a media agency. Like, I think a lot of media companies charge insane retainers to post generic content, and they just post the same templated content, change a couple colors, and send it out to all their clients. And it's like you go on a lot of these people's business pages, and it's like it's the same stuff that all looks terrible. So it is open to anyone aside from realtors. I'm just doing all my marketing towards realtors so they feel like I'm speaking directly to them. So marketing 101, you want your it's not about reaching everyone. It's about being able to go in depth with a specific person. Because he
Mhm.
who speaks to everyone reaches no one. So it's like when I say real estate agents for realtors or for realtors, that's just so if a realtor were to hear it and say, oh, I can self identify that he's talking and this course is for me. Because with the massive sea of courses that people have out there on content creation, social media, the only thing that's going to distinguish mine from someone else's is if that person feels like I'm speaking directly to them. So, long story short, yeah, it's pretty much for everyone, but I'm just marketing as it if it's like specifically for realtors,
And you said you're going to be going over how to leverage AI. What else
pretty
is
much.
that? Pretty much what the whole course is about. Or are you touching on anything else in there, or
Yeah.
what could you expect?
So I pretty much start the course with the pretty much introduction. Then I go into pretty much a couple of the equipment that you could use and at different levels. So it's like I talk about the basics to like audio, video, and lighting. And then I talk about a little bit if you want to get a little fancy, get a camera, get like a 3-point light setup like I got going on. Just the basics because it's not a lighting course or like a equipment course. And then from there, then I go into the basics of, creating your ideal avatar, then picking your platform to choose, and then using AI to like start generating content ideas. then using other AI tools to start repurposing content and clipping content. I talk about how to edit a little bit using Descript and CapCut, which are like the main two softwares I use. One's for my computer, one's for my phone. And then after that, um, that's pretty much the course in a nutshell. Essentially, how to pretty much create your ideal avatar, then how to start game planning to create content, the actual part of creating it, and then repurposing it and posting it is essentially what my course in my tagline. So I put this tagline into Headway, the Headingway app analyzer, and I got like a 77% or something like that. It's what I put it's create 47 months of content or 47 weeks of content in 1 hour. No technology experience is needed, or something like that. And so that is the headline for the course, but it's called the Content Creator Fast Track. Um,
Yeah, I mean, that sounds pretty good. You're pretty good with those title names and
headline.
everything too. Headlines. You're pretty good. I think you got 100 before in one at speaker school. So
Yeah, I got 100 on how to ethically steal other people's audiences. Is the one I got 100 on.
yeah. Um, yeah, dude. So I appreciate so much for hopping on. Looking forward to seeing that course kind of release and follow along with you in the journey of everything else on the Walk to Wealth podcast. Before we go, man, how can everybody connect with you and stay connected and following you with everything you got going on?
Yeah, so first of all, I just want to say how proud and excited I am for you, man, to actually get through this, get this started. So many people never start. So it's super exciting to see someone I know personally want to get this role, this party jumping and in the podcasting space. So I'm super excited for this launch, and I'm super excited to help you launch it and get it out to as many people as possible. And for anyone that found value in my conversation with Rob today, and you want to get into entrepreneurship, my podcast is very aligned to what Rob talks about as well. It's called Walk to Wealth. If I didn't mention it a million times, you probably now you know it's called Walk Number Two Wealth, and you can find me at walk2wealth.com. That's where you can find all the latest episodes, and you can take your entrepreneurship journey to the next level.
Appreciate it again, man, and looking forward to a lot of great stuff in the future. Any last words for everybody?
I'll say this because it goes in line with what we kind of talk about today, and it's pretty much if life was easy, it wouldn't be worth living. God gives his best soldiers the worst missions.
That's fire, dude. That's fire. And again, man, appreciate it so much, and I will talk to you soon, dude.
All right, see you, brother.